tonight. A band councillor at James Smith Cree Nation wants answers after a convicted killer using an alias worked on the First Nation after the mass stabbing attack in 2022. Also, leaving it all on the ice and the court. We look at how Saskatchewan performed at the Brier and the U Sports Women's Basketball Championship. Plus, the First Nations University of Canada launches the first Indigenous-focused journalism and communications degree in the country.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Monday, March 11th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for watching. A band councillor at James Smith Cree Nation is angry that a convicted murderer using an alias worked on the First Nation after the 2022 massacre. Deborah McLean learned that a therapist named Kelly Bird Natoho was there last October, and that he has a criminal history as Kelly Thackeray. Dan Zakreski brings us the story.
In the fall of 2023, Deborah McLean was still grieving her friends and family and neighbours killed by Miles Sanderson. Her brother, Earl Burns Sr., had been murdered in the rampage a year earlier on James Smith Cree Nation. McLean is a band councillor on James Smith and was also preparing for the upcoming public coroner's inquest. That's when she was shown a 7-year-old newspaper article from Toronto.
I opened it up and I read it and I was just shocked from what I was shaking from what I heard. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it.
The article focused on the family of an Ontario cab driver who had been stabbed to death in 2001. Now, the man's family was dismayed that his killer, a man named Kelly Thackeray, had been released on parole in 2014. Now, this all shook Deborah McLean because that same man, Kelly Thackeray, was working as a therapist on James Smith Cree Nation. Only he was using a different name, Kelly Bird Natoho.
Kelly Thackeray Bird Natoho declined repeated interview requests from CBC. It's not known precisely when or why he adopted the new name. Some clues can be found on social media. He is known as Kelly Thackeray to the Parole Board of Canada, and that is the name shown on a November 2023 list of approved mental health providers for Saskatchewan. But he is on Facebook, Instagram, X, and LinkedIn as Kelly Bird Natoho. McLean took her concerns to band leadership, and they asked Kelly Thackeray Bird Natoho to leave the First Nation. The coroner at the first inquest in January took away his standing to ask questions, and he lost his billing privileges as a therapist on James Smith. Deborah McLean says she's not opposed to someone who made a mistake turning their life around, just not on this First Nation after this tragedy.
You know, he can if he wants, but not in James Smith. There's other places that he can practice and maybe give his experience to someone that's going through the same thing as him.
Even though Thackeray Bird Natoho was asked to leave, other therapists remained and continued to work with the community of James Smith. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The Saskatchewan's Teachers Federation is once again withdrawing extracurricular support. That means upcoming planned field trips could be cancelled. The STF says it's pulling support until Thursday in all school divisions across the province, including sports clubs and field trips. It's their latest attempt to try to get the government back to the bargaining table. But the job action has students and parents at a North Battleford High School worried about a trip to New York that's scheduled for later this week.
I think we'd be very disappointed about not being able to go. It's been planned for a long time, right? And so especially the kids that are in grade 12 this year, that means that they don't get to go at all. They won't have another opportunity for a trip like this. The last time we did a trip like this was about 4 years ago. So about once in your high school career, you're going to get that opportunity to maybe go on a trip. So for them, that's it. That's done if they don't get to go on Thursday. So we're really hopeful, and so far looks good. So fingers crossed.
Manick says the trip has been planned for more than a year. On Thursday, teachers will pull noon hour supervision, but not every school division is affected. Meanwhile, a coalition of education unions is speaking out in favor of the STF. Reps of the faculty at the U of S, the U of R, and Sask Polytechnic issued a joint statement today. Together, they represent about 18,000 members. A sit-in at the office of the Education Minister in North Battleford last week ended with the RCMP being called. This video was taken on Friday afternoon. According to Education Minister Jeremy Cockrell, members of the local Teachers Association held a sit-in in his office. He says he had meetings scheduled with an individual teacher set up, but many others showed up. He says they wanted him to phone Premier Scott Moe. Cockrell says he spoke with the group for 15 or 20 minutes, but called the RCMP a while later.
You know, a fairly calm group, but, you know, then there started to be a couple individuals with, you know, exhibiting some disruptive behavior and intimidating my staff. And I think that's really where I drew the line and asked the RCMP to come and remove these folks from the office.
The RCMP say those protesting left without incident. For the last number of months, the province has been paying to send women to Calgary for breast care. It's because of a long wait list for mammograms and diagnostics in Regina. But the opposition says some patients are falling through the cracks. Lindia Kakakaway was a guest of the opposition during today's question period. She was first diagnosed with breast cancer in 1986, and years later, the cancer returned. Her doctor recently felt a lump on her breast. Kakakaway was given the option of traveling to Calgary, but she needs her knee replaced and says that trip wouldn't work.
It's too far for me. I can't. That drive will be too much for me. So I can't go to Alberta. And I don't know why I should when the services are offered here in Regina. I need a breast assessment and I need a mammogram.
The health minister says he plans to meet with Kakakaway when she's able. Everett Hindley says those who can travel to the private clinic in Calgary help reduce the wait list and wait times in Regina. The government recently announced plans to open a breast assessment centre in Regina in the next year. In a world of shrinking newsrooms, layoffs, and shuttered publications, First Nations University of Canada is trying to help grow the field of journalism. This fall, it will launch a new journalism and communications program. The four-year degree is one of the first of its kind in the country and something many say is overdue.
With that weaving of Indigenous perspectives and really leaning into truth and reconciliation calls to action for media, right? So that is, again, one of those strong pillars for this program.
So it's a real landmark, and we've been waiting for it for 35 years. Actually, the Inca program was created in 1982, and even in 1982 we were saying, you know, we've got a certificate, and next we're going to do a bachelor's degree. So it's taken a little while, but here we are finally after all these years.
The program will blend training in journalism and multimedia with the study of Indigenous issues and languages. It will focus on issues and building trusting relationships with Indigenous communities. To help support the program, the MasterCard Foundation is providing $121,000 annually for 5 years. The In Spirit Foundation is also giving $100,000 annually over 3 years. Just when it looked like Saskatchewan's 44-year Brier Championship drought might end at home, the two-time defending champion Brad Gushue and his team from St. John's stopped the party. Gushue defeated Mike McEwen last night in the title game, but not without a fierce comeback from McEwen's Saskatoon rink at the Brandt Centre. Devin Haru has the story.
A remarkable Brier comes to an end here at the Brandt Centre. Dramatic fashion in the end. Saskatchewan making it all the way to the title game, but running into two-time defending champion Brad Gushue, who won a third consecutive title on Sunday night, defeating the hometown Saskatchewan team 9-5. It looked like Gushue was going to run away with this game, leading 5-1 at one point in the game, but Saskatchewan mounted a charge, bringing it all the way to 5-4. But that's when Gushue hit a different gear, sealing victory in the ninth end. And after the victory, after his sixth title, he spoke to the media.
Oh, wow. If you asked me after the sixth end, I didn't know if I'd be here, but it feels awesome. I love Regina. It's a great curling city. The fans were awesome here today. Obviously, they were on Saskatchewan's side, and rightfully so, but I enjoyed playing in that. I thought they were very respectful to us, and it was a really cool environment. And, you know, kudos to Mike and his team. Like, they had an incredible week.
For Saskatchewan skip Mike McEwen in his first Brier final ever. Oh, so close. But he was named the first team All-Star here this week. And he talks so vulnerably about being reminded of being able to curl great, of believing again.
This is the first time I played in 6 years with that being part of the storyline.
She comes, by the way.
You know, and you know, I look back, the last 5 Briers or so, I didn't have that feeling, and I don't want to ever feel like that again.
Right.
And this. You know, I knew we were ready to win or have that chance to win, and that's a heck of a feeling.
Yeah, you're
that feels so good.
How did Daddy do?
What did you think?
Did he do good?
Yeah.
More than 100,000 fans packed the Brandt Centre over the entirety of the Brier. By all accounts, it was an overwhelming success. It certainly didn't end the way the locals would have hoped, but there's belief in Saskatchewan curling once again. Devin Haru, CBC News, Regina.
Now, Team Saskatchewan was not the only team we were watching over the weekend. A stellar season came to a disappointing end for the U of S women's basketball team last night.
Carleton Ravens are national champions.
The Huskies were narrowly beaten by the Carleton Ravens in the national final in Edmonton. Logan Reeder's last-ditch three-point effort to tie the game hit the backboard and rimmed out. Final score 70-67 for the Ravens. The Huskies were the tournament favorites as the #1 seed. The team went 19-1 in the regular season and won the Canada Western title.
But it's like the nerve when you're about to go on the stage is I love it, kind of. Yeah.
About 3,500 athletes from across the country competed at the Warm and Cheer Classic over the weekend. It's the province's largest cheerleading and dance event and one of the biggest in Western Canada. More than 200 teams competed, all trying to lock in a path to the World Cheerleading Championships in Florida next month. And some of the winning athletes did receive bids to compete at Worlds. And in Regina, the best baton twirlers in the country were at the U of R for the Canadian team trials. It was to determine who will represent Team Canada at the World Baton Twirling Championships. Twirlers from Saskatchewan had a strong showing, finishing with gold medals in the Junior and Senior A freestyle solo and pair competitions and making the Team Canada squad. The World Baton Twirling Championships are scheduled for August in Sweden. Some bright, gorgeous sunshine in downtown Saskatoon today with the melting and warmer temperatures. It feels like just maybe spring will arrive on time next week, but well, there are some clouds and some flurries in the forecast. Ethan will tell you what's in store after the break. Stay with us.
This weather update is brought to you by Titan Automotive, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
Welcome back. Our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. If there is a perfect way to start a Monday in March, I don't know if we can get better weather than we did today.
Yeah, it was pretty good. You know, lots of sunshine, warm temperatures. Light winds, avoiding the puddles, and you're all good to go out there. And it is still warm at this hour through much of the province. Bit of a cold front moving through the north means that we're sitting well below freezing in some spots, including Stony Rapids and Collins Bay. But it's really in south and central where we're seeing that warmth surge through. We hit 10 degrees today in Cornack. Moose Jaw got up to 9. Maple Creek still almost at your daytime high of 11. And of course, a lot of other locations, well, all of us pretty much still above the freezing mark at this hour. Pretty good for this time of year for sure. Now, of course, the other thing that this warm air is doing is it's starting to melt all that snow away. This is the snow depth as it was this time on Friday, so about 3 days ago now. And watch as I put this in motion. You'll start to see this all melt away here. A good 5 to 10 centimeters of snowpack disappearing in some parts of the province, and especially along far southern sections, you're seeing that we don't have any snow on the ground, at least according to that particular model. And that is a theme that will continue over the next couple of days, especially in snow-free areas of south central and southwestern Saskatchewan. Likely a couple more days here where temperatures could get near double-digit territory above the freezing mark. You see Regina, eastern sections where we still have snow on the ground. We'll be back closer to freezing and still below that in northern Saskatchewan. Now, the other thing that the snow is doing is it's adding more moisture to the air. And as it gets colder at night, we start to see fog develop. So likely through the evening hours and overnight tonight, we could see near zero visibility in spots, including Regina and Saskatoon. You see a lot of major corridors here in the southern half of the province likely impacted by this. Could still be lingering in some stubborn spots by even the noon hour tomorrow. And then we'll likely see a repeat of that scenario, albeit a little bit further south as we head into early Wednesday morning as those temperatures still remain warm. Now, in addition to the fog that we're seeing, cloud cover building in overnight, and this low pressure system out in Alberta is going to bring through some rain showers or maybe even a little bit of mixed precipitation starting later tomorrow afternoon along the Trans-Canada corridor. Reaches Regina by about 10 o'clock as rain, according to this model, but then switching over to snow as it gets into some cooler air in the Parkland region. Freezing rain, a little bit of a concern here. We're not looking for too much accumulation, though, from this system moving through. And the good news is, next couple of days, we're catching the northern edge of that low pressure system, so that means the winds should stay down at least for the next couple of days or so. But as you'll see here in our 7-day forecast, they'll really start to pick up as things warm up as we head toward the weekend. In the meantime, I've put about 1 to 3 millimeters or centimeters with that system moving through late tomorrow in Regina. Will still likely be cloudy for Wednesday, finally seeing some breaks of sun Thursday. And then once we jump past the weekend, another warm up as we get above the freezing mark. For Saskatoon, less of a chance that you're going to see the moisture from this system. So I've given you about a 40% chance of maybe some flurries starting in the early afternoon hours tomorrow. Better chance of clearing for you as we head later into the week, albeit still windy at times as your temperatures hover around the freezing mark, which, of course, Sam, as you can believe, we're already at freezing for normal temperatures for this time of year.
So begins the time of year where we start taking off our jacket because this feels like spring, and opposite of fall where it feels cold.
Yeah, and then you need to put it back on in the morning hours. You don't know what to wear. It's confusing.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, same.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
We're back with more news after the break. Welcome back. 4 years ago today, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic. The infection has since killed more than 58,000 Canadians. While the severe peak of the pandemic is past, hundreds are still dying every month. Experts say vaccine boosters remain crucial. Lauren Pelly reports.
COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
4 years after that declaration from the World Health Organization, COVID is still on many Canadians' minds.
It doesn't feel like it was 4 years ago, but I mean, I'm happy that we are where we are.
I think that was a very powerful impact on people's life.
I just don't want to get sick. I got races to run, so I just can't get sick.
Researchers say staying up to date on COVID vaccines remains one of the best ways to protect yourself. And a new American study suggests more frequent vaccination for high-risk populations like older adults and anyone immunocompromised could help reduce the burden of severe illness.
It becomes less about the number of doses you've gotten and more about the time since your last vaccine dose or infection.
The study's co-author says protection wanes over time, leaving higher-risk groups more vulnerable.
If you just look at the data on severe disease and who's being hospitalized and dying right now, it's almost the same pattern that's been present the entire pandemic. And I think that's quite striking.
Canada's overall COVID death rates have dropped dramatically since 2020, but older age groups are still bearing the brunt, with 9 in 10 total deaths among those aged 60 and up.
I think we'll see new guidance.
This Canadian immunologist expects a spring vaccine push here for higher risk groups, since COVID is still circulating year-round, at least for now.
I suspect we'll get to a place where it's more seasonal than it has been.
Scientists do remain hopeful that COVID will become less of a threat over time. But for now, it's still sending some Canadians to hospital and leaving others with lasting health impacts. Official guidance from Canada's national vaccine advisors: high-risk Canadians can get another spring dose. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Former Calgary Mayor Naheed Nenshi is running for the leadership of the Alberta New Democratic Party. A bid by Nenshi has been rumored for a month, and announcing it today, he came out swinging at Premier Danielle Smith and her United Conservative Party, calling them incompetent and dangerous. Nenshi is a former business professor who served 3 terms as Calgary's mayor, but with the NDP, he's an outsider. 5 other candidates have already entered the race. And Ethan's back with one last look at your weather.
Likely going to be a foggy one through a lot of the province tonight. Regina, some possible fog patches by midnight. It will be sitting at -5. Otherwise, clear and calm, though. Changes a little bit in the morning. We get a little bit of increasing cloudiness by 8 a.m. Likely some lingering fog, and then hopefully mostly clear of that by the noon hour. Temperature just above the freezing mark, and we'll be looking for increasing cloudiness with that precipitation starting a little bit later in the day. For Saskatoon, it's pretty much straight fog here in your forecast for midnight tonight, for tomorrow morning as well, under mostly cloudy skies, and then could even be lingering by the noon hour again tomorrow as we're around -3. So a good day to check the roads before you head out, Sam.
All right, thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And before we leave you tonight, Muslims worldwide are now marking the holy month of Ramadan, which began last night at sunset. The sacred month sees those observing abstain from food and water during daylight. Many are also giving back. In Regina, Muslim Aid Saskatchewan volunteers gathered over the weekend at a mosque to put together food hampers. Since 2021, the nonprofit has prepared and donated more than 12,000 meals to the community.
Food insecurity is a major problem in our community, and I'm not even just talking about Muslim community, it's like everyone.
Ramen for dinner is not dinner, really, right? So we have students, we have people in the community with low income or modest income, and especially those that fall through the cracks and do not qualify for like social assistance and stuff like that for whatever eligibility reason, right? So when they cannot get help from those places, especially, so our program, we can help them.
Just being able to help out, it's an amazing thing to do, and just doing as much as we can, giving out as much as we can, it means a lot, because like if you're blessed with something, you should give more. And so that's what I've always been taught by my, elders.
Today is a monthly hamper distribution. So we have about 100 clients currently for MAS. We had about 25 last year, so you could see that this has grown to like 4 times, which tells us about 2 things. Food insecurity is a real problem in the community that affects everyone, irrespective of who you are, what religion, what country, what ethnicity. It hits everyone the same. But at the same time, we are blessed that the Muslim Union of Saskatchewan, MAS, we have the means to be able to help at least 100 clients. So what happened today is we had volunteers that came in a little bit early. They had already ordered the grocery from a store that we have like partnership with. And then they came here, packed it one by one, and as clients came by, they just like took it home. At least that's one less thing for them to worry of having a hamper, and then they can take over the whole month. At least reduce the grocery bill to some extent, so providing some relief to some of those people.
And that is it for us tonight. For News Anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Sask or /Saskatoon. You can subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel, or you can download the CBC News app on your phone or tablet. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.